This is the exact moment when Casey Becker is murdered by Ghostface, where the 1996 audience for the opening weekend of Scream understood that this movie was not going to be a typical slasher film. Many people are familiar with the infamous twist. Casey Becker, played by Drew Barrymore, was the face of the iconic Scream poster and plastered over marketing with her slightly horrifying, soul-stealing blue eyes. Although the official trailer for the original Scream movie certainly alluded to her death, the world was a different place, and the World Wide Web was in a different era. Most missed the main trailer entirely, only seeing the teaser trailer, while others missed the context clues and assumed Scream would be another generic slasher film with Drew Barrymore as the main protagonist. She was an up-and-coming star, a sure attraction to draw people into theaters. Why would a director not cast her as the main lead? And yet, sitting in a dimly lit room, surrounded by buttered popcorn and whispering teenagers, that star was killed before the 12-minute mark, changing the entire audience's preconception of the movie. I could go on and on about the influence of Scream, how the movie revitalized the slasher genre, officially introducing horror to mainstream actors and legitimizing the genre in Hollywood. But today, I want to focus on the pattern currently unfolding since the release of the psychological horror known as Obsession, how the movie is following the same path as Scream, and how I believe it will leave just as big as a mark in the film industry. Firstly, while the similarities between the two are staggering, Obsession and Scream do come from different backgrounds. Before Wes Craven became the director of Scream, he had already produced a number of bangers. The Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare on Elm Street, The People Under the Stairs, which certainly traumatized any child unfortunate enough to witness that movie. The screenwriter behind Scream was Kevin Williamson, who had written a few other works, but those had not reached a large audience or had been abandoned and shelved away. The cinematographer for Scream, Mark Irwin, was replaced by Peter Deming around the final month of shooting for a confusing grab bag of reasons, but his work still influenced the final look of the film. Mark Irwin had experience under his belt, including some amazing body horror movies such as The Fly or The Blob, and the budget for Scream was around $14 million, equaling around $30 million today. So Scream production started out with a good, middle-of-the-road budget, a solid cinematographer, a underdog for a writer, but a juggernaut for a director. In comparison, Obsession was both directed and written by the incredible Curry Barker. Curry Barker has mainly been a short-form media content creator for about 6 years now, including the horror film Myth and Serial, and short films like The Chair, and my personal favorite, Warnings. The cinematographer for Obsession, Taylor Clements, has a fairly short list of work, like the short film Worthless in 2022, and the budget for Obsession is reported to be around $750,000. While Curry Barker has an amazing talent when it comes to subversion and the mingling of genres like horror and comedy, as seen with his earlier works, having a significantly small budget and a crew of mostly younger faces fresh to the industry, Obsession was already lining up to be a B-plus movie with a modest earning. But this is where, intentionally or not, Obsession took a page from the Scream playbook, starting with the trailer. There are two major mistakes a trailer can make. One, hyping up the movie to such an extent that audiences are left disappointed. Theaters expecting a gourmet bison burger and being served a lukewarm, slightly maybe pulled out of the trash burger from McDonald's are going to be disappointed. People hate broken promises, and people hate half-fulfilled promises even more. As a wise man once said, half a fuck is worse than no fuck at all. The second mistake a trailer can make is presenting a movie as something it's not. For example, Disclosure Day just came out. I might make a video diving further into the mess that movie has been, but one of the major problems I think happened with the movie is not even the movie itself, but the marketing. Disclosure Day is not a bad movie, nor an outstanding movie. It's an okay movie, but audiences are upset because the trailer presented the movie as something other than it actually was. And after seeing the movie themselves, people are disappointed because the trailer misled them. The trailer for Obsession nails what a great trailer should be, where the trailer was just fine, similar to the original trailer for Scream. Both presented themselves as a run-of-the-mill movie in a certain genre. For Scream, it was another slasher film in a dying breed of movies. For Obsession, it was a generic wish gone wrong concept, and there lies the genius. Because the trailer didn't overhype itself or present a massive mystery to the audience. It presented the core theme with enough vagueness to be interesting without revealing every twist, and then left. By not overstaying its welcome, the trailer drew an audience, and from there, both movies made sure to establish the movie's brilliance within the first quarter. And most of an audience will decide a movie's worth in that time span, which brings us to another interesting similarity to Scream. Obsession nailed the establishment of death within a single scene. In Scream, the first Ghostface kill made the audience realize this was going to be a great movie by the infamous kill of a rising star and subverting their expectation. That kill added depth to an otherwise generic genre. Obsession does the same thing in this scene.
I think we're good friends.
Okay. Good. Good night.
Oh, fuck. Why? What the fuck? I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the fucking world.
When Bear makes his wish, there are immediate repercussions, which changes the feel of the movie. Audiences expected wacky shenanigans spread out across the movie's runtime as a gradual change occurred within Nikki. They didn't expect the immediate or visceral change that we saw, which immediately sends warning bells throughout us, telling us something has gone incredibly wrong. The previous normalcy of the prior conversations, paired with our own frustration and sympathy for Bear and his inability to confess to the girl he likes, is suddenly paralleled with a frozen silhouette on a porch. This rapid shift adds deaths to a simple plot device, and the theaters are now locked in for the ride. By quickly and efficiently establishing the main plot device within the first quarter, Obsession has revealed itself as a competent version of tired tropes. And both Obsession and Scream deal brilliantly with tiresome tropes. Scream openly mocks the common horror trope of running up the stairs, both in the trailers and movie. Yet, the protagonist herself is later forced to make that same decision, with her and the audience fully aware of the futility of her efforts. And Obsession mirrors that same mature and grounded handling of tropes. More than once, I have scratched my head and rolled my eyes watching characters ignore blatant warning signs that a person has been possessed, or not who they appear to be. What Obsession does to a wonderful degree is have nearly every character acknowledge Nikki's weird behavior. But, mirroring real life, her behavior is either ignored, chalked up to substance abuse, or brushed aside for personal gain. And another trope that Obsession handles is not waiting till the last minute for Bear to realize the cause of her change. Bear realizes halfway through that this is not Nikki, but the effect of the One Wish Willow. But because the movie has already established both showing and telling the audience of Bear's conflicting feelings, we understand why he is so desperate to make it work. Even though Bear's actions are clearly morally wrong, the writing of Obsession allows the audience to fully believe he would make these choices, instead of the story needing him to make them, so plot point A can reach plot point B. And the writing, Lord have mercy the writing. Obsession did what Scream did, introducing normalcy back into movies. That's what a lot of modern movies are missing. Audiences might not fully understand why the movie didn't have much of an emotional impact, but subconsciously, people pick up on unnatural cadence, sterilized and often inhuman behavior presented by the actors, a symptom of a script knowing it's writing a movie and not a story. But similar to Scream, Obsession nails the writing. That's why the movie is blowing up in theaters and on social media. The audience feels they know these people. The audience sees themselves in these people, and most importantly, the viewer envisions them as people with a story instead of actors in a movie. The rich writing, the added depth of a mature handling of tired tropes, and incredible actors is all uplifted by the cinematography and final editing cut. Scream revolutionized the slasher genre partially by introducing the usage of bright lighting instead of constant dim and shadowy scenes that made the movie feel more realistic and grounded. The camera work for Scream switches between fluid movements and Dutch angles that create a lingering sense of dread that something is wrong, but what exactly that is remains to be seen. Obsession plays upon that same fear with a different cinematography style, utilizing the fear of what could happen with off-centered characters and a brilliant lighting and editing that emphasizes shadows while also keeping the scene clear enough for the audience to actually see what's happening. One of my biggest gripes with modern movies is quick cuts. In order to save money and speed up the editing process, especially in the cases where a line must be ad-libbed, a lot of modern camera work is all quick cuts. We cut to a character, we cut to another character, we cut to an image, we cut behind the character's head, we cut back to the other character, we cut back to the image, we cut to a coffee cup. All within a 2-minute span. This type of editing takes me out of the movie because it reminds me I'm watching a movie. It takes me out of the action and dispels my fear. In a recent interview, Curry Barker discusses his usage of sound cues to guide his editing style, resulting in longer, more fluid shots that immerse the viewer by mimicking how our brain perceives things in real life. Our ears hear a noise and directs our eyes. A door opening compels us to look at the opener of the door. The stuttering squeal of a car catches our attention before we even spot the rim. And a barking dog has us jumping around to look at the animal. By utilizing the body's natural response process, Obsession feels more grounded and realistic, while also maintaining a stylized cinematography that has people gushing about specific scenes. And that brings us to the finale. A movie's ending can make or break it, and Obsession nails it by finalizing every major plot point and character arc. The ending reaffirms Bear's ultimate cowardice and selfish nature, his inability to truly accept responsibility for his own actions, where his idealized loving the idea of Nikki but not necessarily the actual person, led to both their downfalls. Both Sarah and Ian die as they lived from Nikki's perspective. So consumed with their own lives and their own wants, they missed the spiraling of their supposed friend until she is staring directly into their faces, ending their lives without allowing them to take responsibility for their own failures. The tragedy of Sarah and Ian is they both die never fully understanding why, because they never cared enough about Nikki to ask in the first place. And then the ultimate tragedy is Nikki herself, who might or might not be going to prison, and is left to handle everyone else's mistakes while everyone else had the luxury of ignoring her. That emotional weight and mystery of her ultimate fate doesn't undermine the resolution either. The story of Bear and the One-Wish Willow has a satisfactory ending, partially because it leaves the audience to think and theorize. After watching Scream, the audience is left to figure out which boy was Ghostface at which time, what was Stu's motivations, and what happens to the surviving characters. For Obsession, the audience does not only wonder about Nikki and the eventual police investigation, but about the pile of money sitting in Eden's apartment, the lore behind the One-Wish Willows, or how a music store managed to employ 4 people at the same time and was apparently very busy, despite the fact every music store I've ever been to had a singular, dead-eyed worker that looked like I was the first living soul they had witnessed in a millennia. Instead of spoon-feeding the audience, Scream and Obsession allows the viewer to reach their own conclusion and come to their own theories, which leads us back to the most important thing for a movie: word of mouth. No matter how interesting a trailer is, how much money is dropped on marketing, cast interviews, or expensive actors, ultimately, the audience will decide the movie's worth. People like to talk about things they like, especially when they discover a new thing. Obsession went from an indie movie with a budget under $1 million to a global sensation with a national and international market earning $300 million in under 2 months because the audience was drawn in with clever marketing, sat down with certain expectations, and was blown away by a compelling script, amazing actors, interesting cinematography, and an emotional ending that wrapped up the story while leaving breadcrumbs for us to theorize about. The parallels between Scream and Obsession is important because this is where we can make a prediction about the future. Already reports are being made that Hollywood is scouring the internet for old creepypasta stories and other more indie types of horror to recreate the Obsession craze. Just like with Scream, Obsession will become a classic along other famous horror movies that took a simple concept and elevated it by making characters act and feel human, created from a place of passion rather than a place of profit. Filmmakers will attempt to aggressively model Obsession, but sadly, most directors and producers will fail to understand what made these types of movies so good. And similar to the Scream franchise, I fear in a decade there will be a One Willow franchise where each movie gets further away from the heart of the original until it's making the same mistakes the original was against. The heart of movie making is storytelling, and storytelling is an art. That truth might have been missed in modern Hollywood, who seems to prefer quantity and speed over quality, but maybe the minds behind Obsession will pleasantly surprise me, and each new story in the One-Wish Willow franchise will be as similarly charming and compelling as the original.
I just wanted to say